Today we'll be discussing how to find quality items from manufacturers in China, how you can gain the best quality items from them, and ultimately what you should be telling your manufacturers and how to construct the information so it's easy to understand and quantifiably foolproof. So without further stalling, let's dive straight in. Hi there, my name is George Chuse and I'm one of the founders here at MerchSprout. MerchSprout is a company that assists companies in sourcing products, outsourcing production and helping gain the best stock through quality control in China. Dealing with any overseas manufacturing facilities will always keep you on your toes, and if you want to reduce those nasty surprises to a minimum, one of the best ways to do it is by ensuring that you've found the right supplier. But way before this step, we need to understand the countless things before jumping straight in and straight on Alibaba and throwing cash at a supplier. So once we've earmarked our product from our product research and our marketing research, we want to start to look at how to gain a product that we want to take to market. Because an item you gain off the Alibaba shelf is not something you'd want to bring to market without doing a whole host of checks. Now, to do these checks, we need to start right at the basics, right back at the basics. Now why? Because just like any structure, if we don't get the foundations right, the entire house of cards will collapse. Now in this case, your business is a structure now, and that will have a pillar running through it. And that pillar of support will be quality. So we need to ensure that we have quality at our forefront throughout this process. Now at this point, it would be right easy to jump on Alibaba, find a supplier, but wait, hold your horses. It does feel like the perfect place to start, but let me explain why it's not necessarily the best solution. First, we need to understand if we have a product in the market that's already in existence, like the one you're thinking about. Are we creating a product from scratch, or are we repurposing a white label product? Now, a new product will require an entirely new product development strategy, and it's probably not something that we'll be going into in depth in this video now. Now, that's not to say that this process won't be very similar to what you need to use. Still, the new product introduction is a few more steps to it. The second, which is more common, would be a white label product. Now, a white label product is produced by one company, the manufacturer, but sold by another, the retailer, with its own logo and branding. Anything that requires any more significant change than simply changing the name or putting your brand on a product requires a great deal of time and ultimately investment. Anything that requires more significant change than simply changing the name or putting your brand on a product requires a great deal of time and ultimately possibly investment. And we're going to discuss something that probably sits in between the two. Now let's call it our hypothetical product. It's probably a bit more than just pulling something off the shelf that's currently in stock, but somewhat less than developing a brand new product from scratch with all the prototype testing and such. But even if our hypothetical product is just a quick label change, don't think that it's just changing a brand name on a product and thinking it's a walk in the park. Fundamentally, the approach angle shouldn't be very different to creating a totally new product. Quality is still at the forefront of development, and the supplier selection and quality needs to be quantified throughout it. Now, what do I mean by quantified? Now, if we were to earmark a product for our brand, let's take this keyboard as an example. We want to ensure that we will get from our supplier what we require in our minds. Quality needs to move out of the subjective realm and into the objective world. Recording every single requirement is a must here. Taking that requirement and putting a measurable target against it. And in some instances, ensuring that you have the appropriate test procedure to measure that requirement. Now, in this instance of the keyboard, we want to ensure that we have the correct language printed on the keys. Simple enough. We want to ensure it's the correct size with the correct functionality. We want to ensure that the keys feel right as you press them, because asking the supplier to make sure it feels good quality is not good enough. We want to ensure that the product gets to us in the condition that our end customers expect, your customers. So, what can be done to quantify quality requirements for product functionality? We need to produce what's known as a product design specification. It's a checklist that ensures you know precisely what you want, and it's a great way to understand that you've understood your requirements. Often, when people want to gain something from suppliers, they only think about the product. Ultimately, yes, you should be thinking about the product, but what about the plethora of other items that directly affect the outcome? By the outcome, I mean customers' experience with the product. Things such as packaging, transportation, and quantity requirements must be clear in your mind before discussing anything with a supplier. At the very minimum, you need to have an idea of the following before attempting discussions with any suppliers. Performance. What functions are required? Are they the same as what's available on the market currently? Do you want any features changing to current products? And what parameters will your products be required to work in? Products made for white label products might have been produced for different environments for different markets. And that goes on to environments. Manufacturing environments can range widely. As an example of this is the North China, where temperatures can range from -20 to +40. Materials can change significantly in these ranges of not only temperatures, but humidity too. Components that in the summer months may rust due to humidity or become brittle and are more prone to breakages in the winter. Engine oil and fuels can cause materials to change considerably in these ranging temperatures. And that goes on to say life expectancy. How long do you expect your product to last, and at what performance level? How will the product be used, and how will you ensure that you test this in the market before it's shipped? Where have you gained this data to ensure that you're testing real world simulations? And also it goes on to target production cost as well. What is your target production cost? What fees do you need to apply to your product to make it financially viable in the end customer? Is this still a viable option? Can sufficient quantities be sold to meet the target cost? How does the target price compare with your competitors? Now packaging, this is pretty biggie. Do you require packaging? Do you have a source of packaging? Do you know if it's robust enough to transport your products to your end user? Have you conducted drop tests with packaging and representative products? What's the effect of the appropriate packaging on the transport costs? And have you applied these costs? Is it still viable in the current age of transport costs? And then it goes on to say transportation, is there any special care in handling requirements for your proposed product? Quantity. What quantity are you going to sell? How is this in comparison to your competitor? Is it realistic assessment? Are you looking at the market from an objective, emotional perspective or from your heart? Size and weight. Now, do you know what size and weight of the product combined in this packaging should be? Does this coincide with your expectations after packaging? If you are selling on Amazon, does it fit in the correct size box? And have you accounted for this in your profit calculation? Again, aesthetics and finish. Do you have the requirements for the finish? If it's a white label product, then ideally the finish should be the same as the current products. But even items such as labels need to have requirements. Now, do you have CAD of where you want the brand to be on the actual component? Do you have a clear and concise understanding of this? And again, it goes on to materials. What material requirements do you have for your product? Have these been melted down? Do you have them in your spec sheet? Are there any prohibited materials in this application? REACH is a good reference here, and I'll leave a link in the description. REACH is the registration, evaluation, authorization and restrictions of chemicals and in the EU. So in the EU we have lots of standards and specifications, and again it's a big one. Are there any standards that you need to comply with, not just from a product durability perspective, but also from a safety aspect? Don't forget, here's important, that you as an importer, you are liable to ensure that all applicable standards are met for the market you're selling into with your product. Items like children's toys, where it may need CE markings, please ensure that you do your due diligence here, because it's not worth risking anything outside of that. Quality and reliability. Now, what quality levels will the market expect? Is your product target price reasonable for the level of quality that you desire? I appreciate that it's a hard question to know without getting real product examples, but ensure that you know what is acceptable and what's unacceptable in terms of quality. Look at products and see if there are any examples of failure modes that you know you want to avoid. Look at the current products, conduct some FMEA on them, get into the quality detail and think like a consumer. You could really get some big wins by conducting this exercise. You can often significantly improve upon products by improving upon current failure modes on products already in the market. And products in the market have gone through testing, so do you know what level of test that you want to carry out on the products in question? Is it a small batch? Do you want to check 100% of units in the first batch and progress on to sample acceptance modes after this? Are you going to produce your own test standards? Are you going to get the testing done at an independent facility? Or are you going to employ an in-market quality controller? All questions that you need to ask yourself. Product liability. Have all unintended consequences of the production been thought out for manufacturer's liability? And these aren't even the total list of questions you should be asking yourself at this product of this day. And similarly, there'll be some questions that don't apply to your product. However, once you've found a potential component, these are the questions that you'll want to ask to ensure that you can safely and confidently approach a supplier. And I'll leave a link to a product design specification questions in the description that we use so you can start asking your questions to yourself. Now hopefully you'll have a better understanding of the questions that you need to be armed with to approach a supplier. The questions that we've not mentioned before are a great way to appreciate your understanding of products and if the products are actually the right products for you. Now, if you made it this far to the end of the video, well done. I want to say a massive thanks because there's a lot of information in there. Now, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you can leave a comment in the section below, let us know what videos that you'd like to see in this series. And again, until next time, bye.